Here we go with the letter. Dear John, my wife says she wants more connection, but when I try to spend time together or plan something, she seems uninterested or distracted. Then later, she says we never connect. It's confusing and honestly frustrating because I feel like I'm putting in effort that doesn't count. How do I understand what she actually wants when what she says and what she responds to don't match? Chris in Seattle, Washington. In case you don't know me, my name is Dr. John Dabach. I'm a couples therapist and relationship counselor, and I've done it for over a decade. And on this channel, I answer real questions about relationships and how they actually work in the real world. If you've ever felt confused, stuck, or like you're doing everything right and it's still not working, then this is the place for you. All right, Chris, this is a really frustrating place to be, and it's more common than you probably think because from your perspective, the math isn't mathing, right? She says she wants connection, you try to create connection, and then when you do, she's distracted, checked out, not really engaging, and then later, somehow, you're still the one who never connects. So the natural conclusion that your brain wants to jump to is, what do you actually want from me? Because clearly I can't win here. But before you land on that, and before you start thinking that this is irrational or unfair, or that she just doesn't know what she wants, we need to slow this down and look at a few different possibilities because there really are three broad scenarios that could be happening here. The first is you're putting in the effort, but it's not landing as connection for her. So you're putting it in, but it's not landing. In other words, what feels like connection to you doesn't feel like connection to her. The second possibility is she's disengaged for reasons that have nothing to do with what you're doing in the moment. So it could be stress, it could be resentment, it can be, I don't know, feeling emotionally distant over time. So when you show up now, it's almost like you're trying to withdraw from an account that just hasn't had any deposits in a while. And then the third option, and this is the one nobody likes to consider, is that there's a mismatch between what she says and what she wants and what she's actually responsive to. Not because she's lying, I don't want to accuse her of that, but because a lot of people aren't fully aware of what makes them feel connected in the first place. So when you say I'm putting in effort and it doesn't count, I actually believe you. But the more useful question isn't why doesn't she appreciate what I'm doing? It's what does she experience as connection? And am I actually meeting her there in that place? Because if those two things are off, even slightly, you can end up in exactly this loop where both people feel like they're trying and neither person feels connected. Now, let's talk about what's probably actually happening underneath this, because this is the part that tends to unlock the whole situation. When someone says, I want more connection, most people hear that as a request for more time together, more activities, more effort, more planning. So you think, okay, I'll plan a date. I'll suggest we hang out. I'll try to spend intentional time together. But connection, at least in the way most people experience it in relationships, is not really about time. It's about emotional experience during that time. And those two things are not the same. You can spend 3 hours sitting next to someone, watching a show, going out to dinner, even doing something objectively nice for the person, and still walk away feeling completely disconnected. Now, on the other side, you can have a 10-minute conversation where you feel seen, understood, and emotionally in sync. And that registers as real connection. So, what often happens in situations like yours is that you're increasing quantity, but she's looking for quality. Specifically, like I'm going to nail this hammer home for you, right? It's specifically emotional attachment or attunement. And if that piece is missing, your effort doesn't land the way you think it should, which is why it feels like it doesn't count. Now, layer on top of that something else that's really important. Connection is not just built in the moment, it's really built over time. And it's heavily influenced by the emotional tone of the relationship leading up to that moment. So, if she's already feeling a bit distant or unheard, or like you guys have been out of sync for a while, and then when you suddenly try to plan something or initiate time together, she may not be able to just flip a switch and meet you there. Her system is still operating from, we're not really connected right now. So your effort, instead of feeling like A bridge can actually feel like a mismatch. It can even feel manipulative if you're not careful. It's like you're offering level 10 energy when she's at a level 3 emotionally, and instead of pulling her up, it just feels off. It feels awkward. And that's where the distraction comes from. That's where the lack of engagement comes from. And it's also why later she could still say we're not connecting, because from her internal experience, you weren't actually with her in the way that she needed. Now, another piece of psychoeducation here that I think will help is understanding that people tend to measure connection based on whether they feel emotionally mirrored. And what I mean by that is when she talks, does she feel like you're tracking her? Do you respond in a way that shows you get not just what she's saying, but how she's feeling? Because if that's missing, even well intentioned behaviors, so planning, providing, organizing, things like that, all that can still feel kind of hollow. A lot of guys, especially, are very action oriented in how they show care. It's like, I'm doing these things for you. I'm making time. I'm trying. I'm here. I'm fixing things around the house. I'm paying the bills. I'm taking you out, right? All of that's real and that matters. But if it's not paired with the emotional responsiveness, it just doesn't fully translate. And to be fair, a lot of people don't explicitly know how to ask for that. They just don't. So when she says, I want connection, she might not mean plan better dates. She might mean, when we're together, I want to feel like you're actually there with me, paying attention to me, curious about me, responding to me. And if she's not getting that, she can start to disengage during the very moments that are supposed to fix the problem, which then leaves you feeling like you're putting in effort for nothing. That's the loop you're stuck in right now. You try, she doesn't respond the way you expect, you feel frustrated, she feels disconnected, and both of you walk away reinforcing your own perspective. You're thinking, this is pointless, and she's thinking, see, this is what I mean. And the important thing to understand is that this usually isn't about one person being right and the other person being wrong. It's about a mismatch in how connection is being created and received. So before you assume that she's inconsistent or that this is unwinnable, the more productive angle is to look at how connection is actually being experienced on her side in real time, not just what you're intending to give. Because if she can shift that, or I should say, if you can shift that even a little bit, the entire dynamic starts to change. All right, so what do you actually do with this, Chris? Because understanding it, that's one thing. But if it doesn't change the way that you deal with the relationship in your actual life, if it doesn't change what happens between the two of you day to day, then it's not really that useful. So let me give you some practical advice. The simplest way to approach this, and I mean the simplest way, not the easiest, but the simplest, is you stop trying to win the argument about effort and you start testing for connection in a different way. Right now, your mindset is, and it's understandable, but this is what's happening. It's saying, I'm doing things, why don't they count? But that keeps you focused on proving your effort instead of adjusting your approach. So instead, what I would want you to do is lower the scale and increase the precision. Don't think in terms of planning bigger or better time together. Think in terms of creating small moments where she actually feels engaged with you. Don't go out and plan this huge Hawaiian vacation thing. It's going to solve anything. It won't. Walking the dog around the block and actually listening in a way where she feels like, wow, you get me. That's what you're looking for. So that means when you're sitting together, your goal is not to just be there, it's to be with her. You ask questions, not rapid fire, not interrogative, right? Just curious. How was your day? It's a good way to start. That's fine. But the follow up, the next question, the question after that, that's what matters. What was the best part of your day? What was the most annoying part? Oh my God, I can't believe that person's still giving you a hard time at work. Does she really think that you are that kind of a person? That is what I'm talking about. And then whatever she gives you, you stay with it for an extra beat instead of moving on to a different topic too quickly or just leaving the conversation. If she says work was stressful, don't jump to solutions. Don't pivot topics. Sit in that stress for a second. What made it stressful? Was it a person or just like the workload? You're showing her in real time, I'm here, I'm listening, I'm tracking you, I'm calibrating to you, right? And just as important, Your body language, your tone, your attention, those all have to match. Because if you're asking the right questions, but you're half on your phone or you're mentally somewhere else, I hate to break it to you, it just won't land. The other piece is consistency. You can't do this once or twice and expect it to override weeks or months or even years of feeling disconnected. This has to become a rhythm. Small but regular moments where she experiences you as present and engaged. That's what builds that sense of connection over time. And here's the key part. You're not doing this blindly forever. You're running an experiment. For the next couple of weeks, you intentionally shift how you show up. Now, again, it's less about planning, more about emotional presence, curiosity, responsiveness. And then you watch what happens. Does she start leaning in more? Does she become less distracted? Do those complaints about not connecting start to fade away? If they do, great. You identified the gap and now you're closing it. And if they don't, if you're genuinely showing up differently and she's still disengaged, still saying the same things, then we have a different conversation. Then it's not about you not trying or doing the wrong things. It's about something on her side. Now, that could be unresolved resentment, stress, it could be your own difficulty recognizing or receiving connection, but you don't jump there first. You earn clarity by changing the variables that you control and seeing what actually shifts. Because right now, the worst place to be stuck is in this loop where you feel unappreciated and she feels disconnected. And neither of you can prove your case to the other because it's all subjective. So break the loop. Change the way you show up. Make it more about how she experiences you than how you evaluate yourself, and then reassess from there. That's how you get out of confusion and into something you can actually work with. And for those of you watching, if you've ever been in a situation where you feel like you're trying and not just landing, hopefully this gives you a different angle to look at it from. If you want me to answer your question in a future video, you can submit it using the instructions in the description below. And if this was helpful, make sure to subscribe so you don't miss the next one.